So again, welcome to this historic venue. Here for us 7 years ago. This is the 7th year we're running Intel Extreme Masters Katowice. The world really changed from this being digital sport to filling arenas. I'll jump a bit in the presentation to it once it's starting. Let me see how that works. This is it. So, as always, we're going to start with a video and tell a little bit the journey I just started to talk about.
We've come far, experienced so much, been to so many places with so many people, with one destination in mind: to create a world where everybody can be somebody. A sport where every fan has a voice. A movement where anyone can come in. People came from all over the world to be a part of it. To prove that, if you want it enough, anything's possible. There's a hero hidden in all of us, waiting to leap out of our bedrooms and onto the world stage.
So when all of us here grow older and our children grow older, we'll tell them about how it all began.
A generation came together. Friends turned into leaders. Superstars stepped out of the shadows and inspired a whole sport to do the same.
You are the people who found esports, drove esports and believed in it.
What happens next? Well, that depends on how we write it.
So I'm not going to talk too much about how far we have come. A little bit though, right? A long time ago when we started, that was 2000, this was a vision to create a sport. Then in 2010, with all these free-to-play games, said that before on stages, this became really a product. And then in 2013, when we did the first Katowice, it became kind of a real, true business. What you've seen here is we did a rebrand at ESL. You're seeing it around. We went a little bit crazy on yellow and green. And that was not because the ESL management thinks that yellow and green are the coolest colors on the planet, or we became Brazilian or anything like that. It was because we tried to listen to our audience. And the audience we really want to address is, 14 to 29 years old. There is a lot of research around how esports and all of sports looks like. And historically, in the very first 10 years, everything esports was black. Then everything became blue. And now actually everything esports, gaming, and even sports becomes like orange, pink, these types of colors. So what did we do at ESL? We said okay, don't want to do that mistake to do it like everyone else, right? We want to do what makes sense and what stands out as a sport, what can define pop culture a bit and show a clear path on becoming somebody in this industry. And that's why we settled for this color. So a little bit excursus, going back to what we want to achieve with ESL, and that goes back to the zero to hero story, which I'm going to talk about, which is how we started in 2000. And I think that's always important. We started to build ESL to do two things. Number one, and it's on the mission here, to build stages, and they were much smaller. They were mostly in gymnasiums, in cellars, but build stages for the athletes, the players, which are our number one target group, to become stars. I was playing myself back then. I was stigmatized. I was at best laughed at. So our social mission was to make these people stars. That's what we needed and wanted to do. The other thing was to make this a spectator sport, because the only way that these kids really become stars is if they are celebrated. So creating an event like this has always been the dream. A long time it has not been the reality, but at least the dream. And that comes back then to the why. To create a world where everybody can be somebody means where everyone can make it to this stage. So our competitions are always open. There's very few to none where we have closed competitions. There's always a way for a player and a team to come in and make it to this stage and become this star and follow this dream. And our job is not to do events. Our job is not to run services. Our job is not to do broadcasts. Our job is to build esports ecosystems. And we're going to jump a little bit into, and that is on a local basis, on a regional basis, and on a global basis throughout a full game. Yeah, just said that. I think the basis, again, going back to 2000, the base for each and every one of these events are thousands of online tournaments. If we look at what we do every year, I think we do somewhere between 10 and 20,000 online tournaments to find out new talent, to find out new stars. It's called ESL Play. It's the product I spoke here about as well. We're going to continue to invest in heavily to make sure that we have more and more of these, how you call it, training grounds. These open tournaments are usually not spectator tournaments, right? It's where family and friends are watching. But if you compare it to football, it's what happens in your local club next door and where the next stars are born. Just to get some numbers there, so we do 10 to 20,000 of these tournaments, which then culminate in 14 stadium events, just to put a little bit the ratio. And to really build that path from zero to hero is what we need to do, because for every successful stadium event, right, there's an ecosystem behind it. There needs to be stars created. I said it a little bit when we talked to Chris, that the best influencers for the game, the best people to fill such a stadium is, as much as I love Ninja, but it's not him, right? Because he's jumping here and there from game to game. He stands for more than a sport, so to speak. He's more a pop star. But the athletes, the get-rights, the pashas of this world who will come to this stage for the next few days, they are loyal to their game. They need to be nurtured over years and years as stars and being built through an ecosystem which has enough ways for them to shine and to participate. So whenever we do anything on a local or global basis, we offer tournaments. I mean, we announced some online tournaments for Apex just a week ago, and there's hundreds of teams participating in those. And our job for the next few years is to find the next teams here, to give them a proving ground, a training ground, a gateway to esports, as we say here. We still do this, and this is not a business for us. For Counter-Strike, we do a huge amount of weekly tournaments. And a lot of these players who become to this stage went through this. This is a place for them to shine and figure out before they become stars. And then we have what we call Challenger, and what's a lot, we're going to come on the next slide, on a national level, is the small stages. The ones where a few hundred people come to watch, maybe 1,000, but not tens of thousands. Then we have these stadium events, which are probably the place where we make money, which are the media product, which are the things that politicians, press, and everyone else can touch, but which are, you know, nothing without everything below that. So how do we do it? We do it by having a global organization, because, I mean, you can run online tournaments all across the world, but you cannot run all these national competitions, these offline tournaments where we build the local community. One of the things that, for example, changed to last year, we started an amazing national championship in Indonesia. We're so freaking proud about that. Nick from our Asian team is running around here. That is really building these local stars. And these local stars then hopefully at one point can come to this stage. So this is a big mission for us to have this global infrastructure, to build these local stars, to have them participate in online tournaments, then come to local and regional offline tournaments, and then come to the biggest stages in the world. And here you see it a little bit from a product perspective, right? It's the open tournaments on the bottom. We are going to launch a little bit more products because right now we are basically focused on the play there. That's what we call ESL Play as an ESL product. I think where we're not so good is watch, engage, and learn. So this is a product focus for us. Again, this is a gateway entry to esports. It's probably not where we have hundreds of thousands of people watching. That's friends and family. National championship, and then the biggest stages in the world. And we do that not only as ESL branded products, but one of the things we're most proud of, and one of the pyramids like this we've been building together is Rainbow Six. One of the still most underrated esports out there, which gets more and more limelight, and where we announced an event with Ubisoft just a few weeks ago in Italy, Milan, where a few large international esports events happen, and it's been sold out, immediately. So one thing that's going to change, though, and we'll see that in the MCK as well, is there is this, say, traditional model where 5 people going to sit there, and 5 people are going to sit there, and it could be 6 or it could be 4, but 2 very clear teams playing against each other. One of the formats that we're still trying to figure out, which will come to that top, is obviously mass participatory. And why? I mean, Battle Royale is one reason, mobile games is another reason. It's a different model where we can have thousands of people participating through a weekend offline and really crown a champion. There is a few examples here. IM Oakland 2017, Katowice 18, Katowice 19 is in the other hall. But that is honestly something that we're still figuring out, and that's going to have an impact on how we treat these new titles and how we can create this progression from zero to hero. It's probably a bit more like poker, not in a way that luck is hopefully such a big impact, but in a way that a lot more people can actually participate on that level. A little bit what we've learned, so coming to an end here, we can build these ecosystems. Rainbow Six is the best example. If the game is right, if the publisher invests in it long term, if it's a rapid evolving game, it's working. Lighthouse events are driving this community. The international IM Katowice, ESL 1 Cologne, Counter-Strike and Dota, you can see the longevity, and there's going to be a little bit more about Dota on showing how much through this ecosystem is happening and how much that helps to build these stars / game influencers / athletes, because they are ultimately a very important piece of carrying such a game. It's not all easy. It's something we learned as well in 2018, right? H1Z1 is probably one of the first big, or has been one of the biggest, let's say, failures. Well, a thing that didn't work. We had some things in 2003. We had something in 2006. There were tournaments and leagues before which collapsed. But it hasn't happened for quite some time because everything is like esports is so hard and growing, but it's not all shiny. If you don't have the right ecosystem, if you don't have the grassroots piece figured out, the top league will not work out. And games have a life cycle, right? I mean, we're lucky that a game like Counter-Strike is here for 20 years. We're lucky that a game like Dota and League of Legends are here for 10 years. But hey, a game like Heroes of the Storm probably doesn't have the critical mass anymore to support a thriving esports ecosystem, and therefore is fading out. I think this is super interesting if you look at what a thriving ecosystem needs and how big it actually is. On the bottom right, in 2018, there have been, next to the international, 10 tournaments with above $300,000 prize money, 17 tournaments above 100,000, and 150 events which had something between 5,000 and 100,000. Just the pure scale of this shows if you want to have such a robust ecosystem, if you want to have it longevity, it actually needs a lot of content. And need to be a little bit careful, but we're going to start a new product there, which targets specifically the middle of the pyramid. We do have 4 ESL 1 mega events on Dota, so we feel we're very well set up. We have some national championships, but really, let's say the talent path in Dota has been, in our point of view, not as open and consistent as it has been in other games, and we will want to try to help there and launch something new very soon. So, 4 key takeaways for us, what we try to do when we jump into a game with more than a few online tournaments. Create a path to strive for, right? The aspirational impact, even though very few people make this to the stage, it is still something that's so important to have the dream of trying to get here. We need to offer these competitive structured tournaments at scale to start to train the next athletes, to have these competitors learn how to compete, to have an entry point for them. We need to build this ecosystem not only digitally, globally, but have them locally and regional. There needs to be a way for these local talents, like in any other traditional sport, to become something, and maybe summer camps in the future will be a part to help that, but that is then more, fun entertainment. There needs to be a clear tournament structure there as well. And last but not least, these standalone top events, which are quite complex to organize. I mean, we're incredibly proud of the scale we've built here, but it's opposite of easy, actually. It's much more complex than to do a concert. But this is really the major marketing beat, which is telling the story of a thriving ecosystem, which is creating the pull effect for fans and players into it, and really make a difference. Thank you. Hope to see you all around this week. Hope we can enjoy together this weekend the moments on stage, the finals here. And hopefully we as ESL can help people to become somebody. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the CEO of ESL, Ralf Reichert.